Hi guys, welcome back, and today more using variables. In particular, today we're going to focus in on the string variable concept, and actually it'll be for the next two lectures. We'll start off and we'll review how to declare them and how to put stuff in them, but the real focus of today's lecture will be on the use of the input box. I don't want users actually going into my cells and changing numbers, so what the input box does is offer you a sort of a nice stylized dialog that pops up in front of your face and says, please enter a number for the interest rate, or please enter your name, and then I, through code, put that in the cells myself. Okay, all this and more today on this lecture. So here are the resources for today's lecture, and actually let me start off with the final result that I want us to develop today. So let me click on this, and you'll see as soon as this opens in a couple of seconds, right away the screen pops up. There is the input box, and it's asking for a name, and actually I'll just type in CC, so you'll notice the change down here at the difference. And then I'm going to be asked for the rate, and I'll type in 4, and I'll press enter, and magically the spreadsheet changes. So this is our primary objective today, how to use and implement that input box. So instead of a user actually going in here and changing something, or going here and changing something, I'm going to offer them that input box, and I'll put it where it's supposed to go. Okay, let's get our hands dirty and actually code this ourselves now. So this version here is the plain simple one without any of the VBA code in it, so I'd like you to load in that one. Now, did you notice when I ran that demo a few seconds ago, soon as I opened the workbook, something appeared right away. So we're going to use an event that as soon as you open it, we're going to put the code right there. Let's click on the developer ribbon. We're going to go to Visual Basic. Here's our basic screen. So we're going to double click on this workbook. And we're going to do a couple things in this particular section. This first command's new. Notice how it says general declarations. So what I'm going to type in here is a brand new command called option explicit. And what that's going to tell the computer is, listen, make sure this person who's typing in the code always declares the variables. And you go, well, isn't that what you always do? Well, actually, VBA, Visual Basic, kind of a lazy language. It lets you get away with not declaring variables. That's not a good actual proper formatting and programming technique. So this forces you. So if you don't declare your variables, it will yell at you. So it's just a good programming style to get used to. Next thing I want to do is then go down to workbook. This is where we're going to type in all our code. So if you remember the example we just popped up there a couple seconds ago, we asked for the person's name. So I'm going to type in your name, and it's a string. Okay, so that's one of the things we're going to ask from the person. We also asked them for the rate, and rate's a number, right? So, but we're going to type it in as a string, okay? And I'll explain that to you in a few minutes. But basically, everything that comes from the input box is always a string, things with quotes on it. And you're going, well, it's a number. Well, we'll take the quotes off of those numbers using a special command in a few seconds. The last thing is we need the sheet that we're going to work on. So we'll call it sheet January, and we'll declare that as a worksheet. Now we start putting stuff in the computer's memory. The first one we'll do is with the set command, and we'll call it for the sheet January, and it's going to be equal to, and that's where you type in that big long thing. I'll try to use some shortcuts here. Workbooks. I'll use that one. You could inside put the actual name, but I'm just going to type it in this way. And then worksheets, and again, we'll use one. Okay, this is the new stuff. So I'm going to put a comment here. So I'm going to say prompt user with input box. Okay, so the way you prompt the user is, first of all, you are going to ask for the person's name. So your name is going to be equal to, now here's the new command, input box, and then you put a bracket. And this is where you say something like, hey, how's it going? Please enter your name, please enter your marks, whatever. So we're going to say in this first one, enter your name, quotes. And then the second part is kind of a title to the box. You'll see it at the top of it. I'm just going to write down the word name. This next one is where you're going to say, this doesn't make sense, and I'll sort of explain it to you in a few seconds, but we're going to prompt the user also for an interest rate. So we're going to say, enter the rate. Okay, and again, we'll just put a little title for this rate. and then a bracket. Now I'm going to doodle for a second, okay? Just to sort of get you to understand what's going on here. So when you type in your name will have quotes on it, Shirelli, whatever your name is, okay? And that's no problem, okay? But the way the input box works, when we ask for the rate, and you might say, well, why didn't you make rate an integer? Well, you can't. What you have to do is you make rate a string, because when it comes back, you are going to get, if it's 7%, 7. So there's going to have to be a way to get rid of those quotes. So input boxes always return strings, whether you respond with a number or words. Okay, so I'm going to show you this command called val in a second that will take the quotes off of the rate. All right, so when we say val rate, it will scratch off those quotes, and now we've got a pure number 7 that we can use mathematically. Now I want to slide the screen over just a little bit so you can see where eventually I'd like to put an answer, and then we'll put the name somewhere down here. So here's the moment of truth. We've got a sheet name that we've called sheet January dot range. Remember, that's how you zero in on a spot that you want to work at. We're going to go to B1. That's where we're going to put that, well, 0 right now. We're going to put whatever the person typed in at that spot. Dot value equals. Now this person typed in a rate, but that rate has quotes on it. So what you do is actually a couple things. First of all, we're going to say val rate, which will pull the quotes off. And they typed in a 7. Remember, when you do percents in math, you have to say like 0.07. So you need to divide it by 100. Step 2, let's go back into our sheet. This time we're going to go down to the bottom somewhere. I said around A19. I'm going to squeeze my name or whatever the person typed in for their name, and that's going to be equal to, and we'll make it a little bit nicer. We'll actually type in a word, prepared by, and then we're going to use this trick, this little end sign. This is called concatenation, where you attach one piece of information to another piece of information, and they will join together. So you'll see prepared by, and I made sure I put a little space there, because if I didn't, I had my name stuck right to it. All right, so there you have our full VBA code ready for action. Time to save it. We have to save it and sort of close it and reopen it to test it out, because our event only happens when the workbook opens up. So let's go to File, Save As, and we'll put it in the folder where you've got all your demos. I'll just add on the word new on it. But remember, it's not a workbook anymore. We've enhanced it, so it's got to be called a macro-enabled workbook. And we'll press Save, and we'll close this off. Okay, so there's our new one now. Let's test it out. We'll double click on it. And as soon as this opens up, the instant it opens up, oh, it's warning us. We've got a macro. We'll say enable. Oh, we got an error. Well, that's the whole point of programming. It's kind of like fix your errors, run it again. We found an error. It's kind of pointing to where we went wrong. Not a big deal. Okay, all part of the process when you learn to program. I can tell right there I forgot the other quote. I don't see another major mistake, but just in case, sometimes even the case structure it gets problems. Okay, so I'll put that V in capitals. I think I'm ready to go now. Let's close this off again, and we'll resave. Okay, this time it remembers that it's a macro-enabled file. We'll come back in here again. We'll give it a try. Let's see what happens this time. It should work on the open, right? That's when it executes. Perfect. Okay. We'll type in a name this time. I'll type in my name. Then it prompts me for a rate. I'll type in 5% and press OK. And the numbers change. There it is. Okay. Isn't that cool? Hey, see another mistake. What's going on here? Prepared by is supposed to be Shirelli. What happened there? Let's investigate. Let's go back into Developer, Visual Basic, double click on this. Now, this is the whole point of when you develop programming. This gets a little bit frustrating for people. Something's wrong with the name part. Well, hold it. When I asked for your name, I didn't store the answer into name. I stored it into your name. So, we got to fix that too. So this is all part of the debugging and strategy that you need when you're developing a program. Okay, this has got to be it this time, right? Can't make any more mistakes. Let's do another save. So this is the process you go through when you're developing macros. Let's try it one more time. Okay, the prompting's been no problem. It was just that last little piece. Okay, so let's type in your name. I'm just going to type in Charlie this time. Okay, and then I'm going to type in the rate, and I'll type in 7% this time. There it is, prepared by Charlie, 7% interest rate. All the numbers line up, and there you have, from beginning to end, this new implementation of the input box command. Isn't that cool? Before I wrap up this lecture, I want to showcase one other one. We're not going to go through the whole programming of it, but I'm going to showcase it and show you how this idea of input boxes can be implemented in all kinds of different examples. So if you're looking back, I think I did something like this example, and what I've done is modified it to implement the input boxes. Oh, nice little welcome screen. That's nice. Okay. And then after I press that, oh, some prompts pop up. So this one, we're searching for product numbers that I have for a fictitious hardware store. And then we're looking for different sizes. I'll type large. Okay. And then I'll say I want 10 of those. And it works out the answer. Okay. So I do not want a person going in here and typing in those spots. I'll control it from that input box. And later on, we'll learn even to dummy proof it, which means if they type in things that don't exist or they misspell things, I'll prompt them, hey, please enter it again. You typed it in wrong. If you forget what this question was, it uses those lookup boxes. Remember where you type in the part number, it finds the row that it's in, the size, it finds the column it's in, and then it goes to the table and uses the infamous index command. Okay, but now all with programming. Let's go into the developer and into Visual Basic Editor just to see how this thing works. Pretty well like the one we just did. Okay, a bit more code to it because it has more prompts. So basically, we're asking for 3 things. They're all going to be strings, even though some of them are numbers. Remember, the only way that the input box works. We'll declare a sheet, okay, and then we'll set it to that value. This one here uses that message box we've seen before to say, welcome to my spreadsheet program, so to speak. Then we ask for 3 prompts, okay, part number, size, and quantity. And all these do is put them in the right spots. And once we put them in those right spots, there are lookup tables that are connected to those spots that will do all the dirty work and figure out the actual values that we're looking for. Okay, so another neat little implementation. This one you're going to see over and over again because we're going to enhance it and make it more professional looking, but a neat way to implement this input box command. Thanks for listening. Next lecture, we're going to give you lots of practice so that you can get the handle of this and continue our knowledge of strings and variables and things like that.